This is going to be like a bunch of just random thoughts, I think. I don't feel like it all goes together, but it's just a bunch of like random things to think about, I think. One thing I was thinking about was like right now during this time, like while they're doing these food shortages and they are, raising the prices and stuff like that on the food. And then you have some people who have like a huge emergency stock, right? Um, I mean, they've got all those emergency food kits. There's people who have basements full of food. I mean, I don't even know how extreme some of this has gotten for people, but the preppers or whatever. And I'm just wondering, like, if this is their emergency, if they're considering this the emergency, if they are, using their stored food, or if they're continuing to go out and buy more. I just kind of find that interesting, an interesting thing to think about, like, because everything is, it's all on a spectrum to us, what we think is an emergency and what other people don't think is an emergency and stuff, and how it's also individual how we look at it. And, there could be people who are thinking, got all this emergency food, but, I better wait until there's no food at all because that's where we're headed. And I better just keep taking food and taking food until, there's none left. And then I'll be the survivor in this world. Like, I don't know. It's, it's for each individual to learn and understand about themselves. But I just find it kind of interesting, the whole idea of it. And last night I was watching this movie called Land or The Land or something. It had Robin Wright. And it was, only a couple of people in it because she had a crisis in her life. And then she went out and to go live off grid in these mountains. And you could tell the cabin she was living in was one of those like settlers kind of people made. It was the kind where you took down the trees, you took off the limbs, and you put them up, and then you created that, this mud, whatever it was that they would figure out how to the stuff to put in between the logs to the insulation kind of barrier that they would put to connect them, because they didn't have, they had to make their own kind of glues and stuff. So yeah, I don't know if it was made out of just like rocks and mud and stuff, but when you looked at the cabin, you could clearly see it was one that was made like that. It was super cool. And I think it's also interesting how, it had to be super old and it was still intact. And but it was like something where you would think hunters would go out to a little cabin when they're out way out in the woods and hunt. It wasn't someplace where you would think that somebody would live all the time. It was very, very hermit lifestyle. Like, I'll sit here and think like I'm living like a hermit because I'm by myself, but I'm actually still in a neighborhood. There's still people around me. And when I moved here, I wasn't really sure what my situation was going to be because I bought my house online. And I didn't have any idea there was even neighborhoods like this over here because they're all like tucked back. None of them are, it's different than like in Spokane or something. They're all tucked back. Like, you can be driving down a road and you just see a road and it just looks like a little driveway or road or something, but it leads back to a whole neighborhood. And they're all over the place over on this side of the state. So, and I had no idea. So I was really surprised when I came here and saw my house was in a neighborhood and had neighbors, especially when I saw the pictures of the house. I couldn't tell that there was houses around it. They're good at that. They're good at being able to make a room look way bigger than it is and stuff like that. So anyways, when I bought my house, I didn't really know. And, my being here by myself at first was definitely like where I was having to go out and, the first time going out and trying to split wood for yourself and having to go out and collect wood. And like the first time that I got wood, I just bought it from another woman who was in a neighborhood over, not in my housing development, because it has a name, so, and she was in another one. And so I went over and was getting wood because she had so much. And she wasn't able to use her fireplace or something because of a windstorm and it crushed her house. And so anyway, she had this wood. And I didn't have a truck or anything. I just had a Subaru. I was going over there and filling my Subaru with wood. And she, knew the measure. I didn't know what a cord of wood was and stuff like that. And so she would, figure out the measurements and help me. Well, she didn't really help me so much. She had a grandson that helped me sometimes, but mostly it was me loading this wood. And oh man, there's all spiders, I'll tell you. So, it took me like 4 loads or something to get the wood over here. And then, I had to make my own things to stack it. There's a lot of stuff I had to learn about to live like this, even though it's in a neighborhood, it's completely different kind of living because it's rural and, it's just different. And so, there was a lot of stuff that I was having to learn to do. And I thought that was interesting in the movie because hers is a lot more intense, because she's so alone and so isolated. But I'm sitting there just knowing how difficult and how much a challenge it's been for me. And so I was fascinated by this because it was like, oh my God, this person's got to be like mentally ill. Like, why? And she did have she was in a severe depression. And, why would you go and do this? It's like a death wish. This isn't crazy. And I won't give away all the stuff about the story, but it was really, really good. And the scenery, oh my God, it was beautiful. And they had said it was like the little town was called Quincy. Well, there's a Quincy in Washington, and then it says something about Snohomish or something like that. Or I think it is a tribe, but all of that stuff is here. So I was like, where is this? Because I kept I was like, it couldn't be the Quincy here because it's not that much in the mountains like this was showing. So finally I Googled it to see where the movie was made. And it was made in Alberta, Canada. And I guess they made it like over 3 weeks or 3 months or something. I'm bad with numbers. And, but it was something, I think, with the 3. But anyways, so some of the stuff, like the snowstorms and everything, just like when she first went up there and she wanted to be alone. She didn't have a car, no contact, no phone, no electricity. I mean, she's totally off grid in this rural cabin. Like even to go to the bathroom, she had to go to an outhouse. It was pretty far from the property. And, just like here, when I moved and started, finding out about the mountain lions that come in your backyard and stuff, that, I got freaked out. And, there's bear sightings and stuff all the time. So all of that stuff is out here. So to me now, to think about going out there completely by myself and living, like that seems like, oh my God, that seems so crazy. And so, I was just enthralled. I had to keep watching what was, and not only is it so beautiful, but, it's just an interesting idea to me. And so, I mean, at first, she had, I think it was like spring or summer when she got the place, and she didn't seem to really understand like what winter is in the mountains. And I'm not even that high in the mountains, like I said, like, because the ocean's 30 minutes from me. And that's 30 miles. I mean, it's, you don't have to deal with like LA, to get to the ocean. You could be close, but you had so much traffic. It's not like that here. So it's actually like 30 miles to the ocean in like 30 minutes. So and then so that's all sea level. And then when we go up, we're just like 900 feet or something in elevation. So we're like at the base of Mount Baker, which is a ski resort place, ski lift place. And it's not like a lot of resorts up there or anything. That's why down here where I'm at, there's a lot of Airbnbs because, and that's why this one's such a good opportunity for me. So, but the snow, especially because they've been messing with it, just like I said before, like, I mean, I don't trust them to the point now is like, because understanding now about the liberal agenda and stuff like that, and their manufactured weather and their technology and everything that's available to them and what they do with it, and, you know, what the ultimate goal is, you know, big pharma, that's the top of the pyramid. And so I was just watching something, I was talking about pyramid schemes. I'm going to talk about that too. But so then thinking about that and all of the rain and the creation of depression and what people do when they're depressed and anxious and, you know, all of that stuff that goes together. And, so I don't know, really. Well, I mean, when I had looked it up, it had said that the weather was supposed to be like 35 to 75. I thought, oh, you know, because it's by the ocean, it's going to be a lot more, the weather is going to be a lot different because in Spokane, we're in a valley surrounded by mountains. And so then, but cold as shit, winters, really, really cold, which is probably also manufactured. And because, you know, all of the weather keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Like when I grew up in Texas, you know, there's no snow. And now they have like the worst snowstorm, you know, really. But that's climate change. I mean, all you got to do is talk to somebody and they'll tell you it's climate change. Oh my God, you know, understand some science. Why don't you? I'm trying. So when it was, you know, I thought that I was moving into a place that was going to be more, the weather wasn't going to be as extreme either way. And so when it's become so extreme and the winters can be, you know, rough, you know, and you've got to start preparing in spring and summer for next winter. Like I've already got all my wood for next winter. Like, you have to always be thinking about winter, and it is like a hibernation. You know, it is. If you live in a cold place, I mean, people who live on a beach in a tropical place have no idea what it's like for winter in a place that it's cold and mountainous and snowy and stuff. And once they do the daylight savings and stuff, like you have so few hours of even daylight, and it's so cold and brutal to go outside. It's like, you know, so it's, you know, it's a complete lifestyle, which, you know, I still like that. Like I was in this one movie I was watching today, and it was showing, you know, these big, beautiful houses and snow around. And it was just like, oh, I love Christmas. You know, it makes you start missing it. And right now we're just coming out of winter. But, you know, I like that season. I like that. I like having the seasons. You know, when I lived in California, or even, you know, going to New Orleans in the Christmas time, and, you know, there's no snow, and they got Christmas decorations everywhere. Any place you've ever been in the South that it's decorated for Christmas never feels Christmassy because it doesn't have any snow or something. There's something that just goes with Christmas and snow. I mean, they've sang about it. So she hasn't eaten, she wouldn't eat last night, and she won't eat this morning. She just keeps being so grossed out. But I just got this new hemp CBD tincture. And I gave her one little dropper full, and man, she was snoozing. And and it's rainy and cold here again today, so I know she's not feeling good. But anyway, she could be out here any minute. I just gave her a little bit, but she's having a rough day. And so, but the snow and stuff makes it feel Christmassy. But anyways, for this, you know, to be in a place like that, you know, it's work. Like, it is really work. And that is what is really cool in this movie. Like, she has so many challenges to overcome. It's like a city person suddenly going into like the harshest kind of environment that you could possibly be. You know, she went in and she didn't know how to hunt, and she had a I knew that was coming. She had a fear of guns as well, and she didn't know how to hunt. And you know, she was, I think at first she thought she was going to go out and just like catch little rabbits or something with a little, I don't know, she had some little made trap thing that she made, and it wasn't working. She tried fishing and, you know, catch a couple fish, and she had brought a lot of cans of food. I don't know how she thought how long it would last, but, you know, that's this whole idea of this emergency food, right? So she had brought a lot of cans of food, but, you know, it ended up her cans got destroyed because once when she was in the outhouse, a bear went into her house and destroyed everything, you know, crushed all her food and stuff. So her winter turned into, a really dangerous time for her. And she was trapped up on this mountain. And it was intense. It's an intense show. Like, definitely, to me, I felt like on the edge of your seat. And plus, I understand like what she's really doing, because going out as a woman, when you haven't split wood before, and one time she's out, and I still do this. I was doing it the other day, because in the windstorm, one of the most recent ones, it took down a whole bunch of branches. And so I was like, fuck, I'm going to go out and collect all these branches and use them for starter on my fires. So I went and gathered them all and had them. And so the easy ones that I could just bust, I did, but I'll take a little handsaw and saw them. And so she was out there trying to do that. She tried splitting wood and tried to saw things and stuff. And it's hard. It's really hard. So I could understand, how she was feeling and trying to figure out how to do stuff by herself. But that is what creates your resilience. It shows you what you're made of. So I could really see, like, how powerful this is for somebody this is a make or break you. You're going to give up and die because you're obviously there for that kind of challenge. You have a death wish. And so is it going to make you or break you? And, it plays out. I won't tell you all the stuff that happens, but it plays out. It's really, really good. And I just think, that there's a lot to understand about, like, the human condition and what we put ourselves through and where we call it quits and when we give up and stuff, and when we just keep powering through and fighting for our desired outcome, And I think there's times when I don't even know for sure if she knew her desired outcome, but it was also, I think it showed, even when you have a death wish and you got a bear coming at you, you're still going to run and hide. Like, this idea that these people get, like I've said before, you have somebody suicidal and you have somebody come in your house to murder you. You just go, oh, thanks. You saved me a little job here. Please hurry it up. Or do you fight for your life? And I think most people would fight for their life, because I think when people become so disillusioned and depressed and down and just don't know what to do, they just want to give up. But we have a fight or flight. We have something inside of us that makes us want to fight for our lives. And then it shows you, my life matters to me. And, she really did show herself, like, she really grew so much and she learned so much about herself. And it, was really powerful. I really enjoyed that movie and I totally recommend it. And this morning when I got up, I was going to go in and watch, some of those British crime, the DCI banks. I was like, oh yeah, I was watching this crime show. I forgot about it. I do that all the time. I can get up in the morning and have such a hard time even thinking what I did the day before. It's always like really spotty. And so I'll completely forget something like that. Oh, I was watching a show. So anyways, I thought, I'm going to go back in and watch that. So when I was going into Hulu and I was looking for it, I found this other docu-series. And so I just decided to turn it on. It sounded interesting because it was, if you've never seen A Letter to Zachary, A Letter to Zachary is such a good one. I mean, it is very impactful. It's not one that is a feel-good, just like, the one with the Gabriel Fernandez, I think is his name. That one's on Netflix. And, it's fucking tragedy. And it's fucking sad, but it really shows you what our system is made up of and how our system works. And, our system has been to, create poverty, and then they fish from poverty, they, even with, that guy, he was, and Maxwell, they were, they were fishing from a certain pond of girls that, were having a hard time. There was a lot more poverty. So, somebody who's got money just looks like, oh my gosh, they've got it all. They can offer me anything. And the people who, use that to dangle to get people to do what they wouldn't normally do, because, they feel driven to try and get whatever this person's offering. So it's always the lures, you know, but they know where to go. They know where to strike. And, you know, CPS and stuff has all been to, I mean, there's so many kids that have gone missing through this organization. And it's people who people see as, you know, just disregard these people. You know, it's the people that people want to sit around a dinner table and think they're so superior and call them trash because they've got drug problems or poverty or, you know, I mean, a lot of people have been in some really bad situations as kids, and it's really traumatized them, and they've had a hard time being able to get over the traumas, especially in this world that does not promote growth and healing. It's all fake and phony what they try and promote. It's, you know, because they want us all on drugs. So, you know, that one is a really good one. And it really shows a lot about CPS and stuff. So I really recommend that one too. But, you know, you got to have a box of tissues. You got to have a heart that can, you know, and especially during this time, I mean, you got to recognize in yourself how much trauma can you really endure. So, you know, don't go watch something because, you know, you need to just keep seeing the dead bodies or something. They're everywhere around us. The system has been, you know, we are this giant mass grave of trauma and deceit and manipulation and all of this stuff that is, you know, terrorized us without us even knowing that we were being terrorized. We thought it was life. We thought this was life. You know, they've got people. Oh, this is what I was going to say the other day that I had forgotten about, was about love. And that comedian was talking something about love. But when I was listening, I was just like, you know, people just don't understand love. Like, love has gotten a bad rap because we've been so misguided about it. But, you know, and plus, you know, like people thinking lust is love. Like, oh, this person makes me feel good for a minute, so it must be love. This person was nice to me. Must be love. You know, it's been us who haven't really understood it. And, you know, there's more to it. And I think that is one of the beautiful things as a parent, that you really do learn about love. You know, when you have a child, you really, for most of us, I mean, we can't say that about everybody because there's a lot of traumatic situations for a lot of people, that they're people who are supposed to love them are too damaged to even love themselves. So they can't love them. They can't love anybody. They're struggling just to survive in a world. So, you know, but we are learning more about love right now during all of this stuff. This is that's part of this going into the age of Aquarius, is our expansion and understanding of love and connection and unity and all of this, and pulling free from all of this trauma. It's like trying to get people to leave the cult with you. It's like, no, it's a cult. Come with me, get away, run. You know, we got to reprogram our brains. So, you know, we're in that process. But so many people, they think the cult is the answer. They believe what they've been told. So anyways, you know, there's a huge expansion going about our understanding of love and where we go through, like, are you my mother? Are you my mother? Are you my mother? You know, we're always looking outside of us for us to feel complete. So, you know, it's a beautiful thing for us to start understanding that, as far as I'm concerned. But so in the letter to Zachary, it is a really good one if you're interested in that. You know, it's not entertainment, it's education. And then this one I'm watching right now, it's called, let me look real quick what it's called, because I'm only, Murder on Middle Beach. Yeah, Murder on Middle Beach, and it's on Hulu. And it's another one I find fascinating because I'm comparing it to Letter to Zachary, because the person who made that documentary was involved. Like, they were in the orbit of the people who it's about. So, you know, it's like if something happened to, you know, somebody in my family, and I decided I was going to create a documentary. So it's that kind of situation. And that's the same with this one. And this one is so interesting because it is the son. He was a young person when his mom was murdered. and it's an unsolved crime. And so he starts looking into it and making this documentary, and HBO apparently liked it enough to put it on because it's on HBO docuseries, you know. But it is so interesting. It has a lot of intrigue. You know, his dad was a multimillionaire, and this is people over like in the Connecticut. Like, these are the kind of people you think about, like, to go to the Hamptons or something. This is in my mind. Like, I'm not an East Coast person. I've always been Southern West Coast. And even like I had connections to, you know, what is that called? The middle part of America, the, you know, the flyover states or whatever you want to call it. So I have connections to that because my grandpas were farmers. But, and then I grew up in the South, and then I've spent most of my life on the West Coast when I wasn't traveling out of the country, but I haven't done a lot of East Coast. And I've always been intrigued by it. I've always been interested because it is completely different. It's a different lifestyle. It's different. Everything is so different. In the movies, when I see them, and I'm always like, oh my gosh, I want to go over there so bad. I want to see, I want to experience it. I always wanted to, when I was younger, so badly, I wanted to move to like one of those little ocean fishing towns. And I'd watch movies about them, and they're so cliquey, and, you know, they're people who have been there since the beginning, and they don't like outsiders. And then, you know, and I've kind of found that over here, you know, when you move into a small area, people don't like outsiders. They don't want people bringing in other information. And we know because Ted Royal didn't like it at all. He's a royal pain in the ass, and he didn't want me bringing in anything. So got me kicked off of the, you know, community social media, which really does restrict you when you're out in a place like this. You know, it really does. And I think that's why my neighbor next door tells me a lot when stuff is going on, because I would have no idea. And just like when all that big shootout was going on, you know, I heard all the sirens and stuff, but I didn't know. I could tell they were close, but I didn't know what was going on. You couldn't hear all of the gunshots. That's what's so weird. And it must be when I hear gunshots, it's because it's out in the woods. It's not because of the hunters. You're not supposed to be hunting over here, but I think, you know, kids go out and target practice and stuff like that. So you'll hear shots. And so, yeah, I wasn't hearing shooting that day, so it's kind of weird. But anyways, in this show, on this East Coast thing, this dad was a multimillionaire, and he worked in the energy. He was the CEO of an energy, what energy? Like over here, ours is called PSE. In Spokane, there was two. There was Inland Power and Avista. So, you know, we all have our power companies, right? Now I feel like we're learning so much more about, you know, the power company industry and stuff. I mean, it has so much to do with the hunter and all of that stuff. So, you know, I mean, there's a lot of money siphoning. There's a lot of control, and that, you know, that's the reason why they didn't want Tesla to give us free power, because, you know, it's like big pharma. And so, you know, he was involved in that, and then he started having some dealings, of course, with other countries. Like, I don't know if it was the Middle East or whatever, but he got caught. And so he got fired. And then they started pressing charges on him. Then he won a huge lawsuit on his defamation lawsuit. So I'm not really sure what all, you know, that he actually did, but he continued to be involved with these other countries. It ended up, you know, destroying his marriage because he spent so much time in these other countries. So, you know, when you get involved with these powerful people, you know, it's not a place you want to be. You know, it seems all fine and dandy, like, oh, you got money, so then you don't have stress. So I think it brings on a lot more stress than what people think. I think there's a lot more stress associated with having a lot of money, especially in a place that's so seedy and so much crime and stuff revolves around power, greed, money, and all of that stuff. So I think, you know, he was obviously, you know, involved with some shady shit. And, you know, it brings out a shady part of people when they are. So, you got that, you got your ex-wife murdered, and it's on the day you're supposed to be going to court. Like, there's so much stuff that's very intriguing about this. And then the mom is involved with this group that they called a pyramid scheme. Some of these women went to jail over this. And it's interesting to listen to the different women talk about it, because he's going around doing a documentary. So he's interviewing all these people, and he knew nothing about, his mom or his dad. He didn't know any of this stuff. So it's very interesting. It's like he's learning about his life from another perspective that he had no idea, although he was living that life. So those concepts even, are so full of intrigue to me. And so the thing that I found fascinating about this pyramid scheme thing that they called it was not only our legal system, and that how they decide, what we're allowed to do, and they decide, our punishment and stuff. And it's kind of creepy, because like, these women didn't even know they were committing a crime. They didn't know that there was something they were doing wrong. They just made these little groups it was during the time, I think it was 208. And I remember that's when I was real activist, because I had, when was it? Because when I got my brain injury, and that's when everybody was losing their houses. And so I was going over to Olympia, and I was going and I was with a group, a big group that was an activist group. And, I was going and doing all of those demonstrations around the Wall Street thing too. And so, I was going out and doing all of those kinds of things, and going and trying to talk to senators and congressmen and stuff, and going into the Capitol and all of that stuff. So I remember this time well, and I remember, how it was so impactful. People were losing their houses and stuff. And, it was the collapsing of our economy at that time, because it's a constant, bring us up, bring us down, bring us up, bring us down. And so or do we bring ourselves up and then they tear us down? And then we bring ourselves up and they tear us down. Whatever, it's a part of the rotation of this system. So this group of women during that time, they were struggling, and they decided to create this private group. And it was women who, and they had secret words that they would use and stuff, and they were trying to keep it all like on the down low, because it was just private to them. It was not anybody else's business. And so they were creating this group of women, and they'd get all dressed up, like it was a big night out, and they'd have these dinner parties, and it was only women allowed. And then there would be, in order to enter the group, you had to bring $5,000. And this is where the pyramid scheme became. So in the group, the women would bring the money to join the group, and then that money would funnel up and funnel up and funnel up and funnel up. And I remember something about this even when I was in my early 20s. There was some sort of group that was started, and it was this was like $10. Like, give $10, and $10 was a lot to me back then. And give $10, and then you find other people to join the group, and then they give you $10, and then instead of having 10, you have 40, or something like that. It's like that kind of concept. And so they were doing it, but you had to keep bringing in more and more women. And so then this is the thing about intention. So you have one, and then the groups get so big that they have to split off. And then the woman at the top, I think she's called the Donna, kind of like the Dawn of the mafia or something is what it reminded me of, but she's called the Donna. And so they would split off into these other groups. And so in one group, it was like, well, we're only going to ask women who have a lot of money to come into the group, because, we can't be asking people who don't have money to do it. In the other group, the woman, her intention was to try and help people. She thought she was going to help people, like, because she was making so much that, well, if I get these other women who don't have very much money, I can help them to the point where they will change their life. So she thought she's doing this great deed for these people. And so she is trying to get them to, just however you can get it, borrow it, take a loan out, sell your car, whatever, get your money and get into the group, and then it will start happening for you. But there was the whole other part, is that the women who didn't have very much money didn't have friends that had very much money. The women who had a lot of money, they're in their own little friend set. Those of us who didn't have very much money, we're in a different planetary system. We're in a different reality. Those two realities, will crash and burn. So she's trying to get other women who don't have very much money to come into the group. So it started creating a lot of tension, and it's where it ended up going to the point where people were arrested. And they said it's illegal. At first, it was not supposed to even be a misdemeanor, but, they can turn things and word things to create the illusion of what it is they're trying to present. So they could make a crime where there was no intention of crime. It's not just a slap on the wrist, hey, ladies, you can't do this. You got to pay this one back. She's not happy. It's not that. No, they start arresting and putting people in prison for it. And, somebody got murdered. And at this point, I still don't know who's murdered this woman. And the story is very intriguing, but I've found it interesting about this, that really shows you can have one thing happening and you have different perspectives. You have different ways of looking at it. And it's so much based on your intentions. It is what you intend to do. What is it you're trying to do? And that's why I talk about, like, right now, people's intentions can't be hidden. It's like we are becoming transparent. Like that concept, what I've talked about, like the light body, being able to see through people. So you see their intentions. So that's why, you can be talking to somebody and all of a sudden you're like, oh, man, they are so skeezy. Like, what the hell? And you just start seeing through what they're doing because their intention is not pure of heart. That's why it's important for you to know your intentions, to be in contact with yourself and, what you're truly trying to get from something. And that is why you have to get to a healed position, because you don't even recognize what it is you're truly trying to get until you get to a healed position. Because when you are in an unhealed position, then you are trying to just get needs met. You're trying to, feel better or manipulate situations for an outcome that's going to make you feel good. And that's this, ego on, high drive or whatever, because it's all making your decisions for you. And so you're not even seen. You don't have the same empathy for other people because you're so focused on how you feel. And so when you go into more of a healed position and you start understanding how you impact others and you see things, you see through things and you understand things deeper, then you can really understand your intentions. And if you don't have intentions of pure of heart, step back and think like, why would I feel I needed to manipulate this person? Why would I need to, try and control or create a situation to go a certain way? Because usually it's for something that we need to heal. There's a trigger in there and we're not recognizing the trigger. We're not learning from the incident. We're trying to control it. We're trying to change it. We're trying to make what we want to happen. But really, a lot of things that happen are to show us something so that we can heal and we can grow. But we are a part of the creation of the chaos in this world. And that's why it's us that will make the change. It's us having to create the world we want. And there's not really, I don't see a way to create this world where people are happy and content and unified if we're all still playing games and we're unhealed and we're manipulative and, we're an ego and stuff like that. So that is, everything happening right now is to give you an opportunity to heal wounds. And I'm not talking about just childhood wounds. I'm talking about past life wounds. I'm talking about your soul. Your soul is here right now for an ascension. Your soul is here right now in this earth plane for graduation, for a leveling up, to step up. But you have to step into yourself to take that step up. You have to face yourself and you have to heal what comes up. And there's no more of this playing games. You know, the games will hold you back. And I don't know how all of this is going to go down. I still, you know, I've said this all along, you know, I don't know if there's going to suddenly be a split, like where people have talked about, like, and suddenly we're going to split and the people who aren't healed are going to be in a different place than the people who are healed, because we're not going to be together anymore. It's not going to be like that. We're moving into a completely different reality, a completely different existence. And, you know, like I've said, you know, you got to get through the door. You got to go through the tunnel to get to the door. And you can't get through those doors if you're holding a lot of baggage. So you want to get to that place. You want to release your baggage. But, you know, so many people fear their baggage. They fear having to see themselves for who they are. And, you know, but that's where you have to come to this acceptance of yourself, to understand yourself and to know, like, I'm here to learn and to grow, and, you know, recognize where you have grown, you know, and recognize where you have changed and moved out of certain behaviors. Don't get caught up in like, oh, I can't think about that. I can't believe I was like that. I can't believe I did such a horrible thing. Face it, go deeper into it. Try and understand yourself and then release it, let it go and move on from it. But don't you know, distract yourself and be in denial and play games so that you don't have to see yourself. Allow yourself to come forward, you know, and then process and move through it, you know, and then, you know, it becomes a beautiful thing. I'll just end this one with saying, like, I had seen this little clip. It was like a 3-minute little clip, and I started watching because it was this woman who you would consider, if you saw her, you would say, oh, she's very homely. And, you know, it's not just, you know, our features or something. It's our disposition. It's how we feel about ourselves. It shines out how we feel about ourselves. So when you see someone like that, and they're just like, you see that they're carrying so much pain, and they're just like the expression on their face. Like I said, there's certain periods of time in my life that I don't even like to see pictures of myself. And so, you know, I would think that's how this woman would feel about this time in her life, because you could see that she was struggling. She just felt horrible. She felt ugly, and it was shining through. And her, you know, her hair was a mess. So you could tell she really wasn't taking care of herself. Her skin was bad. Her weight was, you know, over what it should be because there was so much extra around here. So, you know, she was feeling, you know, you could tell she was feeling really shitty about herself. And so she got this makeover because I think she had to go look for a job. I wasn't reading all this stuff. I was just watching all the stuff they were doing. And they were doing a lot of fucking chemical process on this lady's hair. So much chemicals. I was like, man, this is a lot of upkeep too. Like, this lady's locked into this look now. She's going to be like having to go and, you know, I think sometimes people get excited about these lean looks because I've done them before, you know, go do all your hair and do all this stuff. And then, you know, after a while, it's like, fuck, I got to brush it and, you know, do all this every time I get ready. I got to, you know, create this hairstyle. I've got to go to the salon, and you got to have money every time you go. And salons now, I mean, to go in and get your hair and stuff done, if you're doing all that color and stuff, is a couple $100. So, yeah, it becomes super expensive. So anyways, when she was transformed, the whole look on her face, that's what I'm saying, is the beauty suddenly comes out, and you just see, you know, she's shining. She's feeling good about herself, you know. She forgot to take care of herself. She forgot to look for her own beauty, you know. And then somebody else showed it to her, even though it was lab created with all these products and stuff. But, you know, she felt good, and it shined back out, you know. She saw herself as beautiful there, and it was a beautiful moment, and it's the time of transformation. And I just thought that really was showing how much this transitional period can bring your beauty right to the surface. So it is so important to do your healing. Like, for her, I would say, you know, it would be a lot to upkeep. You know, you have to have a lot of money to do all that stuff. But, you know, I hope that she starts going and working on herself, you know, however she needs to do that, so that she can keep that feeling good about herself without having to rely on the chemicals and products, but to just get to that feeling of like loving herself. And because that's what shines through. It's not just, you know, oh, you know, I mean, she was loving her hair, you know, like she's putting her fingers through it, you know, and it had a whole blowout. Like, a blowout is a lot to do. So, you know, she had her whole blowout done, and she's loving putting her fingers through it and stuff. And, you know, the brighter color was nice on her, but, you know, it's still, you can get that shine. It's just by loving yourself. It's just by getting excited of who you are. And most people go around feeling so much shame for who they are, feeling like, you know, they're the only ones who have something wrong. They're the only ones that, you know, or maybe, you know, crazy or something, you know. So it is so much about this learning to love and accept yourself. And that's where you will start to shine, you know. And we all have it in us. We all have the light inside of us. It's just a lot of people's have been dimmed by this dark place that I call hell. So anyways, work on you, and, you know, keep your spirits up. Don't go watch this stuff if you're feeling down, I'm telling you, because it's not going to help your mood, you know. But, you know, really work on you and just keep your spirits up, and, you know, just keep your eye on the prize. The future is bright. We just gotta, you know, we just gotta get through this. We just gotta get through the tunnel, and we will be there. You know, and I think it is coming. I think that I'm still feeling like this week could be super impactful. I mean, just yesterday, I guess, at a huge tennis match, 15 players they couldn't do it. They, whatever, with the exhaustion, probably with the heart stuff. I mean, it could be anything because we're under such severe attack, but it's becoming so much more in the public eye. They can't keep hiding it. I mean, the amount of, you know, athletes that have died, and, you know, I mean, we were seeing even the celebrities, the people who are on our screens, you know, they're being affected by this stuff. And I find it kind of sad, you know, even like with Willis, because it's all about intention. Like, you know, what was your motivation? Did you really believe that this was going to help you? And did you really think like you needed to go out and promote it for others? You know, that's where people are going to have to look at their own intentions, and they're going to suffer a lot of consequences. So, you know, that's what I'm saying. Be pure of your heart. Know what your real intention is. And, you know, be real. Be authentic. Love yourself. Talk to you later. Bye.